Welcome back. Definitely was a good break for both speakers to recollect their thoughts because they're going to give a rebuttal speech. We'll start with the affirmative speaker to address the affirmative rebuttal. Rafida, you have 3 minutes.
In conclusion, what I can see from GST issue, it is a prerequisite for the government to take fiscal reform. Other countries with a GST such as Korea, New Zealand, UK has developed further than Malaysia is doing right now. Second, GST is not a new source of generating more revenue. It is rather a tool to stabilize our economic growth, as well as helps to reduce the tax burden experienced by the low-income population. Finally, GST is one of components in fiscal reform that is certified by the international rating company. If Malaysia is not implementing GST, I'm afraid Malaysia will be downgraded. If Malaysia is downgraded, that means our country's condition will become worse, as there will be less investments from companies, and it will lead to unemployment, which is not good for our country.
Thank you. Now we'll pass to the negative speaker to give his rebuttal speech on the arguments he has presented and heard before. Azarin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'm going to do is I will recap on some of the points that I've presented just now, but also, in light of some of the points that our affirmative speaker has highlighted just now, then I'd like to present one or two new points here. Like I said before, GST, it's the infrastructure of collection that is the issue. It's not the tax itself. We already have an existing tax regime, tax structure, taxation system, but what's lacking is our own weakness in collecting what's due to us. So that's really my main first point. And then my second point is, by trying to cover for that weakness, we try to implement GST so that in the hope that those companies will be doing the tax collection on our behalf. I think that's really the wrong approach to address a problem. We just, as if we're just trying to sweep the problem under the carpet. Okay? So those are some of my main points just now. But then there are also some new points that just been raised just now, which is one of it is it really a fiscal reform that we're trying to approach here? You also raised earlier that this could be a social issue if you don't try to correct this imbalance. Yes, I agree. There are some imbalances that we need to correct. But I don't really see this GST as a way to correct a fiscal reform issue. In fact, if we really want to go down that road, we should be asking ourselves, aren't we an Islamic country? All this while, we've been claiming that we are. And there's already I won't call it a taxation system, but it's a form of collecting revenue back into the state coffer, which is the zakat. It's already there. It's already been stipulated, but we're not really being serious, trying to understand how it works and trying to adapt or implement it in our environment, in our situation, in our country, in our society. We're not really serious about that, whereas the system is there. So if we are really saying that we are an Islamic country, then perhaps that should be the approach that we explore if we really want to explore fiscal reform. So that's one. And then let's just stop for a moment to think that what will be the effect of implementing GST? I mean, research has proven, I mean, if we looked at other countries that has implemented GST, immediately upon implementing GST, it's as if you're pulling the handbrake on the economy. Because everybody will, the moment they hear that, oh, we're going to implement GST tomorrow, so they start hoarding, start buying things and start hoarding, and then immediately after that, there's a slow in consumption. There's in terms of that's the historical data that's proven that at least for 1 or 2 quarters it will be there. So that's really an issue. And then you mentioned just now Malaysia being downgraded. Why are we so afraid of that when years ago our very own Prime Minister implemented the financial control, foreign exchange control? So, I mean, we've gone down the path of, doing things our way. So, I don't see that as an issue so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's throw a spanner into the engine. We'll have one of the judges to ask one of the speakers on today's topic. Anybody want to take up a question?
Mr. Azharil, latching on to the point where you said about implementation across the board, how would you see enforcement being done in a non-GST system to ensure that there's no leakages in the system itself?
Thank you. I reiterate back my point that the issue is not the taxation method. The issue is not whether this is GST or non-GST problem. The issue is on the enforcement, which you rightly said as well. Therefore, if it's enforcement, then we should address the issue of enforcement itself. So what is it about the issue of enforcement? Is it about the method? Is it about the documentation? Is it about the system? Or is it about the whole thing in itself? So rather than trying to patch a leaking system with another system that we think, oh, this will be better, why don't we try and sit down and fix it before we try and implement another system altogether? So, because otherwise, we keep seeing in this country that we're just jumping from one problem to another without really addressing anything. So let's be serious, let's sit down and let's do something properly for a change. That is my answer to the issue of enforcement. That is my answer to the issue of leakages. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rafidah, I have one question for you. As you said just now, by imposing this GST, so the authority will gain another 1 billion compared to the existing situation. So is there any way, or there's various way actually in order to incur 1 billion ringgit Malaysia? Is there any way that we can incur that amount by not imposing a monetary obligation on the people? What say you about this?
I would say it's a more contribution from corporate sector. I mean, from their income, especially from big companies. They can contribute something to our country. I would say from that sector.
Is that your answer?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Madam Judge.
Let's have a look at the key points raised by our speakers today.
For stability in economic growth, 40% of tax revenue of this country is contributed by oil and gas industry. So in the future, as we know, the supply of oil and gas will deplete and diminish day by day. So by using GST, we could have a new source of generating tax revenue. By implementing GST, it is a good answer for a call in a reduction in income tax. Exports good will be exempted from tax. Social welfare as well as development projects. An increment of 1 billion ringgit in country's revenue could have more development projects that is beneficial for rakyat, as well as social welfare that is assured.
Then GST, I mean, I just fail to see the mechanism where GST will make it equal, or will widen the tax collection base, because we are not really addressing where the issue is. We are relying on people to volunteer their compliance to tax. In fact, in any countries, SME forms the backbone of the country's wealth. Therefore, SMEs are the ones who does not have the infrastructure to help the government to implement the GST system, because GST depends on these very people to do the collection. Now, as a low-income earner, every single cent is counted. So therefore, you are really penalizing these people. So the rich are evading their taxes. The poor pay their taxes. They just don't have the choice, or they just don't have the means, or they don't have the know-how to evade this. So, but I seriously don't think GST is the reason per se of lowering the of that, because in other countries, for example, India, take India, it implements GST, and then no, it doesn't have that effect. Why? Because research has proven that in India, it's the collection system that's a problem.
GST is one of components in fiscal reform that is certified by the international rating company. If Malaysia is not implementing GST, I'm afraid Malaysia will be downgraded.
Weakness in collecting what's due to us. So that's really my main first point. So, is it really a fiscal reform that we're trying to approach here? Immediately upon implementing GST, it's as if you're pulling the handbrake on the economy down the path of, doing things our way. So
the results are in. The judges have been very pleased indeed with today's sessions, and they have concluded that the negative speaker is the winner for today at 20.6 points, whereas the affirmative speaker at 19.3 points. Congratulations. Well done to both of you for today's insightful session, and very good points indeed. That's all for today's Face Off. Don't forget to watch next week's episode, where we'll debate on the proposal Budget 2013, Time for Austerity. Good night.